Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I'm very happy to be able to rise today and speak on behalf of my riding, the good people from the riding of Portage-Lisgar, who have done so much to help young people get jobs, done so much for people who are in poverty, people with mental illnesses, people who have been using the Canada Summer Jobs Program in order to do both of these things. And so I am rising to speak on their behalf today and happy to do it. Madam Speaker, it wasn't very long ago in this House that the Prime Minister rose and he issued a formal apology to the LGBTQ community for what happened during the 50s to the 90s, when the government of the day decided that they would be telling a certain group of Canadians what they could think, what they could feel, how they could live. And if what they did didn't line up to what the government of the day wanted, and what might even have been politically correct in that day, those individuals were cut off from being part of the government process. They were cut off from their jobs. They were cut off from taxpayers' dollars that would have been paying them to do those jobs. They were cut off from serving their community. Why? Because of the way they lived their lives, because of their belief. And so we saw the Prime Minister rise in this House and do the right thing and apologize to that group of people, the LGBTQ community. Madam Speaker, we are seeing a government today, in 2018, do exactly the same thing to a group of Canadians. In December 2017, just a week or so before Christmas, the Liberal government announced that anybody who wanted to apply and possibly receive funding for the Canada Summer Jobs Program would have to sign on to the government's belief, a government's attestation on a certain number of beliefs. And if they didn't do that, they would be denied funding. Now that was several months ago. As soon as we saw it, as soon as these groups saw this attestation, they were extremely concerned that their rights would be infringed on. And Madam Speaker, today, literally, as we speak, we are seeing this come to fruition, where amazing, excellent, great organizations across the country are being denied funding because they have not checked off the values test box of this Prime Minister and this Liberal government. Madam Speaker, I want to talk for a minute about the Canada Summer Jobs Program. This is a program that has been a nonpartisan program. It is, in fact, in 2016, over 75,000 students across Canada benefited from the work experience. This has been a wonderful program where we as members of Parliament actually would be able to look at who was getting these summer jobs grants. We would go, we would congratulate them, we would many times help them work with their application. These are groups who aren't doing political work. They're not advocating, they're advocating for people. Right. They're advocating for our communities, and they're employing our young people to do so. This was the exact program that the Liberals, the Liberal thought police, decided they were going to attack with this attestation. Madam Speaker, let me read for you what the Charter of Rights and Freedoms actually says. It says the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out is subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Then it goes on to say, here are the fundamental freedoms. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. A, freedom of conscience and religion. B, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. C, freedom of peaceable assembly, and D, freedom of association. Madam Speaker, organizations and individuals that work in these organizations, this is their charter rights. Now, we saw, again, this was only a few short months ago, when Omar Khadr, a convicted terrorist, somebody who fought and worked to kill our soldiers and our allied soldiers, was awarded $10.5 million by this government and this Prime Minister. Canadians were outraged. What was the, oh, and by the way, let's not forget, his lawyer has just been appointed a federal judge by these Liberals, So what was the Prime Minister's defense of this $10.5 million payout to this convicted terrorist? Well, he said the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects all Canadians, every one of us, even when it's uncomfortable. $10.5 million uncomfortable. This is not about the details or merits of the Kadar case. This is the Prime Minister's words. When the government violates any Canadian's charter rights, we all end up paying for it. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister has no problem violating the rights of tens of thousands, if not millions, of Canadians across the country who don't agree with him. He has no problem violating their rights by taking away their ability to apply and to receive Canada Summer Jobs funding, which, by the way, is not his money. Right. It's the taxpayers' dollars. Let's remember that. He's got his family fortune, and he seems to love using all the taxpayers' dollars for all his holidays, his nannies, on all of it, all the stuff he wastes money on. This summer jobs program money is not his money. It belongs to the people. But he's got no problem violating their rights. He even went on to say the anger that some people feel and that a lot of people feel about the payment the government made to Omar Kadar is real, and quite frankly, this might surprise you, but I share that anger and frustration. He said that settlement had nothing to do with what Omar Kadar might have or might not have done. It had to do with what the Canadian government did or did not do, and when a Canadian government willfully turns its back on defending a Canadian's rights and allows a Canadian to be tortured and mistreated, we all end up paying for it. Well, you know what, Madam Speaker? We paid Omar Kadar $10.5 million because apparently his rights were violated. We, rightly so, have apologized to a group of people in the 60s to 90s who had their rights violated. And at the same time, this government is violating the rights of Canadians who won't sign this attestation. Madam Speaker, I want to tell you some real stories with some real names of people right now whose rights are being violated. David Atco is an Indigenous business leader in Quebec. His company provides technology integration and human resources counseling. This is what he has to say about the Liberals' values attestation requirement. He says, as an Indigenous person, what I care about is Indigenous youth getting into the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and into management positions. But he said, the message I'm getting on the Summer Jobs program is what matters to the government are my religious beliefs. It's reminiscent of the days when the churches told us what to do to civilize our brains, unquote.
We know that in Quebec.
Madam Speaker, this is a real individual who wants to hire a student and make sure that young people are exposed to the STEM industry and STEM's factor of industry in our society. And he's somehow being told he can't apply because what he believes privately might disagree with what the Prime Minister thinks. A pastor from an Ethiopian evangelical church, Pastor Ephraim Likimariam. He's the pastor of the Ethiopian Evangelical Church in Toronto. He had this to say about the Canada Summer Jobs attestation requirement. He said, I remember why I came to Canada 29 years ago. I came because we had a communist, discriminatory government in our country. As a young man, at age 17, I was discriminated for my beliefs. I was tortured. That's why I escaped and I came here to a land of freedom, the land of respect, and I'm very proud to be Canadian today. But the reason that we are here is because of this summer jobs for young people. These are his words. I believe summer jobs should be based on skills and talents, not based on someone's views, whether religious or ideological views. We oppose that kind of ideology. That was this pastor's words. You know, Madam Speaker, I'm so fortunate. I've never been tortured for my beliefs. We've always lived in Canada where I can't infringe my beliefs on somebody else. I can't stop somebody else from having their rights, but I'm allowed to have my beliefs. Canadians are allowed to have their individual beliefs. Madam Speaker, how much time do I have? 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Thank you for that. So, Madam Speaker, let me just finalize this by saying Conservatives will always stand up for the beliefs of Canadians and their rights. Let's not have to be apologizing for something else in 50 years. Let's not have to, in 50 years, have a government stand up and say, we apologize for trampling all over the rights of those Canadians who are applying for summer jobs program back in 2018. Let's change this. Let's do the right thing. Thank you.